We are in the summertime, and I know there's a bunch of people out in the world looking for opportunities to meet people,
Big time.
you know?
This is,
And
I mean, this is usually there's two different seasons, right? I think it has to do with an age demographic of the season of it being summertime, because a lot of people younger usually are more apt to fall into a relationship, come fall time, when it starts to get
oh,
cold.
that's true. No, you're right about that. I guess summer is more of like, hey, let's hang out, let's party, let's kick it.
But
And
it's a
then cuffing
demographic,
season.
it's a very big age difference of thought process. Kind of lived it all, right? Like you and I both have. Like, and I've always found summer to be harder than anything just because of what can transpire. you know,
Yeah.
Patience,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. But I think I also kind of feel that people are still, well, okay. People are still interested in meeting people for marriage, to people are still looking for marriage. People are still looking to be in committed relationships. And I didn't really think people were on that wave. Like, have you noticed that? Like,
yeah,
what's your experience?
I think because of how do I say this? I think because of certain social media demographics and social media accounts, I think we've been highly consumed. Black Twitter is one of them. Justin, just a LA boy is a big one.
Mm,
And I think a lot of, um, I don't like to say it, but it's almost like toxic culture has taken over kind of the dating realm, and it's become kind of this. It's no longer taboo. People talk about, infidelities as if they're just normal, or they talk about love as it's abnormal. Because I think there's just a lot of things in the mix now. I think as humans, we all yearn for that connection piece to whatever sex we're interested in, and whatever person we may be interested in. I think we all yearn for that uh, partnership, fellowship, and intimacy connection. Those
yeah.
connections
Because I
are
think
wired in a lot of ways, right? So
yeah, like no, I see that like companionship. Maybe not necessarily marriage for everyone,
yeah,
but I do think people want to go through life with someone. Like we can't go through life by ourselves.
no, and I think some people in today's world, I think more of the younger generation, let's just say 35 and under, at least from what I see. Um, it's either you have your really, I only see two sides of it right now. Just like, just say my friends on Instagram. It's either they are and have been in committed relationships and they are staying in those and everything's good. And then you're seeing the guys or the girls that, you know, are still looking for that person, and I have a lot of homies that don't necessarily aren't upfront about what they may want in a relationship when they're dating or to get married, but
Hmm.
a few of us that have been married and have, skipped down that aisle. And I,
That's
for
what I,
me, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. No, real quick. That's what I've heard. Like a lot of people that got married really young, were married and then now like in their 40s, they're getting divorced.
Yeah, there's actually been a few, just even like families in my academy that have shocked me with the divorces, after the kids have graduated high school. And I've seen it a little bit more now as soon as the kids are done and they become empty nesters. Like myself, I'm an empty nester. So it's like, it's hard because it's like I went through 20 plus years, with my sons, one being 22, the other being 21, of it trying to be about them all the time, and then trying to also blend a family, because I
Hmm.
wasn't with others. So it's like that was really hard, and when you're not emotionally, even financially secure, or if you're dealing with your own insecurities and your own demons and things of that nature, it just adds um, a lot of different spices to the roux. You know what I mean? If I could put that in a more
Yeah.
metaphorical. Um, I don't think there's a lot of people who don't have children at an early age. I see it more and more often. It's become just a kind of a social norm, being a single parent, especially single mothers, as opposed to single fathers. And I think that the wants and needs of both male and female have completely changed in 20 years time
Mhm.
of my youngest, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
people evolve for sure. So I think that's definitely a big part of it is because when you marry somebody so young, you're not even at your final well, we're always, continually changing and evolving and maturing. So I
mhm.
think if people don't know how to grow together, it'll definitely cause issues
Well,
later.
I heard a good quote, and my pastor used to tell me this in our therapy sessions. He's like, marriage or just a relationship in general, whether it's male, female, whether it's friendship, whether it's family, whether it's your partner, um, it's really what the persons that are involved can tolerate within the
Mm,
relationship. So relationships that last usually have a person who is tolerable of the other person and their things, because what the Harvard study is like every 3.5 to 4.5 years, we die a slow death of who we once were. So
mm,
I've been in relationships where it became kind of a roommate situation.
mhm,
I've also been in relationships, not super serious, that I felt could have been serious, but maybe myself wasn't ready or that person wasn't ready to take it to that next step. Um, I've had friends tell me that a lot of women coming to them are only looking for marriage because they've been doing the fuck shit and had the just the casual hookups, the situationships per se, and they're no longer looking for those, when my friends might just be looking for that because they're coming out of something that they were just once in. So I think what we do see kind of in the dating pool, or just in general, is that you do have a lot of unhealed people still trying to find other people. And what we don't realize is, if I'm unhealed and I'm still hurt and I'm a hurt person and I'm gonna end up hurting somebody else, I don't want to get too personal on it, but just like what I view and see, right? Like, I think um, we also have to take into account that people don't meet people organically anymore. I mean, that's just like a bar story, right? Quick bar story. Like, we used to go to the Snug a lot, right? And I'll never forget, like, just being kind of cordial, like how I am always. And you've known me for a lot of years. Like, I'm pretty outgoing. And so if I see someone, or just being nice, like I might even be a little tipsy at the time or whatever, but it's just saying hi to somebody and say, hey, how was your evening? You know,
being social.
yeah, but like getting that from the opposite sex, it's like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Like, this is how we were raised. We were raised to court a woman in a specific way. And that is, the young kids call it Riz, but it's just having game. It's just having confidence. It's having charisma, and
Mhm.
that's where the word derives from, is having charisma while you're talking to the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever you like, whatever your preference is. But charisma is something that, even just my father and my uncles taught me at a young age. Like, if you're going to go after something, you have to go at it with confidence. Like, and so that's kind of off-putting, because it's like, well, I don't know who to go up to anymore, right?
Mm.
And it's like
Wait,
in the
so
back,
people just don't receive you, or they're just
the
mean, or
nice
what?
compliment, or just saying hi, like being cordial, just being a normal human being. It's like, really, like, you guys are weird. Like, it's just a
Like, what's
weird.
the point of going out then?
Exactly. But our point of going out is completely different than my son's groups going out. Like, it's funny to watch him experience nightlife. He has a girlfriend now and they're very serious, but like, just to him, over the course of the last 2 years and being in Hawaii, and then seeing how he interacts with people when he comes home from school, it's like, huh, they're a little different than us, And so I know things evolve, but I think that there's one always true thing, is that I think we all value companionship, right? And it's just a matter, like I said, it's just a tolerable thing. Like, I don't want to be with somebody that's always on my nerves. And I
Mhm.
also am at the age at 43, like I just want to be around my best friend or my
Right.
best friend. You know, I want
Yeah.
to the people that get me. I want to be around the people that love me for just who I am. I can be who I am without it being put on a show. Um, and I think that that's like even the article that you sent me, right? Like just the arranged marriages in Asia. And like I go back to my friends that were in South Sacramento that I grew up with that you never really understood the dynamic of the family, right? Or the parents, right? I even look at my parents. I'm like my dad and my stepmom. I'm like, okay, my stepmom was a very beautiful woman, you know, in her late 20s when they met. And the thing that I get the most about them is that, you know, they've never been a real affectionate, lovey-dovey couple. And so, like, I know that that's like one of my biggest things is physical touch and like kind of acts of service, more of a being with that person and, you know, kind of holding hands, cuddling, kissing, you know, being intimate like that with my partner. But then they're on the complete opposite end of the spectrum where it's just like they're best friends. Like my dad's never stopped dating my stepmom. Like they
Yeah,
go
that's
out every
great.
Saturday, you know, and so like when you're around that and you see that, like the older I get, the more I value them as a couple, as a married couple. And same probably for your parents, right? Like because it's not about the kissy huggy, you know, 6 month, you know, it's new feel. It's like, man, these dudes, you know, these people really do care about each other, but they care about each other in a sense of there's just such a mutual respect that they have for one
Yeah.
another every day.
And it's been forever. Like, I think for most people, it's good to be on the same page. Like, whatever your wants are, whatever your values are, whatever your beliefs are, you guys have to be on the same page and discuss what your wants and your needs and your desires are. Because you might like PDA, but some say you meet a girl and she's not into PDA or she's not an affectionate person or vice versa. It's not going to work.
Mhm.
So I think people really have to have more of these tough conversations, almost like an interview process, and
I
really
think
get
you hit the nail on
down to
the head.
it.
You hit the nail on the head. I think it requires time, and I don't think people have the same amount of time that we once had either, because we keep ourselves so entangled with being busy, and so
Right.
hard to get reality to a certain extent. And like I was gonna send that to you last night when I was up. I couldn't sleep, but I was watching this thing and the guy was like, you know, what are the no? I think I did send it to you. It was like, what are the red flags of a first date? You know, and it's like I've been on a first date and I may have overstepped myself in just talking about, oh, are you interested in marriage? Are you interested in having more kids or even kids in your own right? Like I have too. So I'm
Hmm.
usually pretty transparent with kind of my past because like however you want to view me is based on what I'm going to tell you and then you're going to find out anyway, right? So like I might as well just tell you and be upfront. So it's kind of like verbal vomiting on a first date, you know, and
Hmm. But I
what
can
is
see how maybe on a very first date you wouldn't want to disclose everything. Because what if things don't work with this person? Then you don't want them to know, all of your stuff right off bat.
I think
But
not like all the tangible detailed stuff. I'm talking about more surface things that do matter.
oh,
And
I
I
have
don't
kids, or they, this or that. That's
with
good.
information because I also don't want to waste my time. Like I don't think you would want to waste your time. If I courted you and said, "Hey, let's," you know, usually before a first date, you've had at least 3 to 5 phone calls, right? Like it's not just see this person, go on a date right away. You're trying to lead up. You know, there's lead up. There's certain protocols that every male and female have. You know, like I've never been a timeline guy. You know, like that always hurt me when I was younger too because I was never the jerk that didn't pick up the phone. I was never the guy that ignored your text or didn't answer the phone, or even call you back. Like I'm always been kind of the over communicator, but that's who I am. And
Mhm.
that's hurt me in previous things because the over communication of, hey, I'm sorry I'm busy right now, but I can get back to you. Some girls are off put by that. Some girls are a lot of times off put by the nice guy, not
Yeah, which is so weird to me. which is absolutely ridiculous.
That's a whole nother episode
But that's
of that.
immaturity. Yeah, that's a whole situation in itself for sure.
But I think when it comes to finding your partner for marriage, and I really found that the thing that you sent me as far as the arranged marriages lasting longer, I think what happens is when something's prearranged or predestined, right? Like, and you're living in a caste system like these people do, um, they're kind of thrusted into not necessarily having a physical attraction. And it goes back to even like our first episode of, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and talking about that show. It's like you take two people from two different spectrums of the world in their profession, and now they're put together, and they have to live together as if they are husband and wife, because that's their spy cover up, or whatever their new espionage mission is, to be a married couple. And I've always found it to be interesting how a lot of people are put together through trauma bonds, if
Hmm.
that makes sense. So it's like,
Or yeah, or just looking for love, or looking for somebody that looks good, or looking for somebody that has money. Actually, I think women might be more onto something, looking for a man that has like stability versus a man looking at a woman for just her physical appearance. Both have their flaws, but it leads you to, I don't think that makes for a lasting commitment or marriage, because all those things are temporal. All those things will fade, you know? So it's like, I think people need to just slow down and get into relationships for things that are more lasting. Like it, but it also depends on your goals.
yeah, but that's also people who aren't just being honest and real, right? Um, you have to be real about what you want. And I think a lot of
And I
people,
don't think people are. That's the
yeah,
thing. Like they're not having the tough conversations. They're not, asking, what's your credit? What, how do you pay your bills? And how much debt do you have? Like just all those different kind of
that's the
things.
number one. That's the number one reason for divorce, is financial irresponsibility and just financial hardships, right? So
Or
I think,
infidelity.
yeah, but I think the
Cheating.
financial piece goes hand in hand with the infidelity part. I really do. And
Okay, let me think about that. So you think that men cheat because women don't have money? Or is it women cheat because the man doesn't have money?
I'm going to speak from a male perspective. I'll let you take the female one, but on a male perspective, I think because we work and operate so much based on masculinity and ego, right? And it's things there's different arrays of infidelities that can happen, right? And I think a lot of it has to happen is that I need to feel wanted, and we're the predator, right? We're not the prey. Women are treated as the prey in that, animal kingdom sense. So like I have to always feel like I'm worthy of any woman that's walking by me, or at the gym or wherever it may be, right? Like, and once you subside that part of your ego, um I think you start seeing everybody in a different light, you know what I mean? And not the same light that you once did. Now, if I'm at the gym, I'm just giving you an example. If I'm at the gym and I see a really beautiful woman and she's working out, like for me, I usually am always resided to just being by myself. If I'm not in the gym with somebody, then I'm by myself, and like I'm focused. I got my headphones on. I scan, and I always am observant of everybody, but very rarely, if any time, I will ever go and approach that person that I thought was hot, based on the fact that it's just a common courtesy thing, because it's just not the time or the place. This person's trying to
Right. I was gonna say that.
right, or they're trying to do some, maybe after the workout, if that was to be the case.
Right. You
Never.
guys are walking out together, you're
Yeah.
finished.
And kudos to anybody who has that strength or confidence or courage to do that. That's just not my MO. Like,
Yeah,
I'm here to work out because I have to work out, right? So like there's a time and a place for all of this stuff, right?
exactly. Listen, fellas, because it's so true. That's such a good point. A lot of women, um, don't want to be approached in certain situations because women, you have to keep in mind, women do get approached all the time
Yeah.
by all kinds of men from every direction. And
I-
it's
Every
sometimes it's too much,
Mhm,
especially if you're in like a vulnerable space where you're working out.
mhm.
But it
And
also depends on the person. A lot of this does come down to case by case.
it's case by case, and I think that there's a lot of look at me culture because of social media. And so
But
like
look at me, but don't talk to me, kind of though.
mhm.
You know, they might be doing an influencer
That's what
video.
I'm saying. That's exactly what happened at the bar, right? It's like
Yeah.
you're wearing a specific outfit and this is who you're portraying to be. I'm just saying hi, and now you're looking at it and using it as a fucking I'm weaponizing you, or you're weaponizing me for just being a nice dude. Like, fuck. I
It's
mean, it's
confusing. It's hard. Yeah.
and it's a lot. It's become a really hard spot for I feel like males in a sense, like guys like myself that are very old school and were touted on their mouthpieces per se, right? Like I can hold a conversation with anybody. So I'm never afraid to go up to the hot girl, the ugly girl, whatever girl is. I've never had that issue. So like I can't relate to somebody who is shy and not confident about who they are and what they may bring to the table or what they
Yeah.
might obtain from this person.
Because they
But
say
just
a lot of men are lonely and are like, you know, they're saying a lot of men don't know how, or they just don't know how to speak to women. So they've kind of like stepped out, like the red pill guys, the MGTOW guys who are like giving up on even trying to date because of some of the things that you mentioned. But I think like a guy like you who has mouthpiece and is social, like it's such a like that because I guys like you come to mind when I see guys like that who are I guess called the incels who don't really exert themselves anymore, like who just give
yeah,
up.
I mean, and it's not even a give up thing because I would never say that I've given up. Like that's not at all what it is. I just
Because I was like, then what's gonna happen? You give up? What? You just gonna be lonely or you're gonna be
I don't
gay? Like,
I don't ever think in my heart of hearts and in my life I'll ever be lonely, right? Just because of the base of friends that I do have and the people that I have surrounding me will never give me that loneliness. I think the biggest thing is just finding somebody that really can handle what I have to offer and can tolerate, right? Like again, for me, this is a big thing with marriages is it's a toleration thing. And I don't like that word because there's just such a negative connotation with that term toleration, right? Like tolerating somebody is like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to go to work today. Like you tolerate your job if you don't like your job, but it's because it's what's feeding you, it's what's putting things on the table. I don't ever want that to be the case ever again in a relationship. I think that the easier part for me to find is just can this person actually hold a fucking conversation? You know, can they make eye contact without looking down at their phone? Like, can they be in the now? Can they be present without it having to be recorded? Like, I value that part of it. I value being on a date with somebody or being out in public with somebody or even being intimate at the home with somebody that they are engaged with what I in that person are doing. Or are they in the moment? Are they present? And I think a lot of people aren't present because they're trying to show what the present looks like to someone else or to others or to an audience. And I think that
yeah,
we've
like
given
a
a
sh
lot of, yeah, we've
sorry,
just given
go ahead.
a lot of dumb people power and validity and how do you
It's
put
kind
it?
of a scapegoat.
It
Like
is,
it's
but it
easy for people to just sit there and be on their phone versus having a conversation, but they don't have the capacity. A lot of people do not have the capacity to hold or people are socially awkward. And I don't know if it's also directly related from
it
the
to me from
effects of
a
the
woman's perspective.
pandemic.
Yeah. Well, give it to me from a woman's perspective. I think all of those things are very tangible, Stace. Like the COVID thing, the pandemic thing, that's a very tangible thing. A lot of people are off put with having physical human interaction because of this pandemic that we went through, especially right after it. It's like, you know, I'm
Yeah.
the guy that's in the grocery store. If you're behind me, like I'm probably going to have a conversation with you. Whether sometimes you like it or not, I'm going to at least say hi because that's just for me it's the human thing to do. Like, hey, how's your
Yeah.
day? Hopefully you're doing well. If you, do you need help with that, like as a woman, like just being
Yeah. But see, okay, maybe this is the problem with the internet and social media is that we've received too much information and there's too many impressions in our mind that that person he may be trying to get over on me or that person he's going to take advantage of me. Like you almost don't just be like, "Oh, he's a nice guy just wanting to talk to me. He must want something from me." And I think that's the over process of the information that we receive. So people have all these like judgments and stereotypes and preconceived notions because it's happening. And maybe it's not happening as much as we think, but we see it on social media over and over and over again. So it makes people
I
feel
this one in there. I think it's the sensationalism of marriage, right? It's the sensationalized part of the actual wedding, right? And God, I wish I remember this quote that I saw last week. It's just keep everything private until it's time to announce it, right?
mhm, mhm.
Keep the relationship private, keep the engagement even private,
Because
until
people
you
are haters and will try
exactly
to put things in your ear about whatever, you
exactly,
know. And
and
what
just those things, I think that that's an important piece though. I think everybody's out for having the big wedding or the
And
how
that's
do you
almost like a social construct because I was hearing that a lot of people or just things I was reading that people don't want to get married because the wedding costs too much. So do you know I looked up how much it costs to like officially be married.
Mhm.
It's like at most $200 in California.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to remember too that there's a lot of people that are,
Status,
well, it's a status thing, it's a
doing it for
lineage,
the Joneses.
it's a traditional thing, especially because there's different demographics that of people who are getting married, right? Like when somebody comes for money, like that's like the number one thing that you have to do. Like, and I'm only looking at it from a standpoint of I've lived in different parts of the country, for short amount of times, but I saw it. And especially when I was doing mortgages, I saw it all the time. It was like the lineage of somebody back east is way different than the lineage and that, their predestined journey here on the West Coast, right? And those people on the East Coast come from money. They have bank accounts, savings accounts that are in the
That
millions.
old money. Hmm.
The goal is to marry, to have kids, and to continue your last name. You know what I mean? So when you have those types of things, you're going to see a difference. I wish we'd have probably pulled up some of the numbers about, who's getting married, where, what the demographics are of those marriages, and are they lasting? Are they actually
Well,
being
yeah, I looked up some and a lot of the people in like the Northwest, like Washington, in the Midwest, aren't getting married,
Mhm.
um, are less likely to be married. Uh, they were saying that millennials and Generation X aren't likely to be married after, at this point, because I mean, you've lived so long by yourself. Why would you change your situation to bring in somebody else when, but I think a lot of people also marry for survival in a sense.
So here's the thing I can tell you about that. People get married for different reasons.
Right.
And from a
Help.
personal standpoint, I can tell you that it wasn't fair to my ex-wife because I got married for a lot of the wrong reasons. And it wasn't her fault. And it sucks when they have to open this wound or peel it back a little bit because at the time I felt like I had to have a wife for what I was doing. So there's a lot of I'm around a lot of parents, I'm around kids, I'm training, teaching, coaching, mentoring. I have to go to these events. It doesn't look good that I'm going to bring, a different girl every 2 months to these black tie events that I go to, right?
Mm. It's the lifestyle. It's a social construct. It's
Yeah.
acceptable to
So,
have a wife.
yeah, it's a social status thing.
It's
Like
it shows success. It shows success.
it shows success, it shows stability and trust, right? You
Mm.
as a let's say you were married and you had a son and you brought him to me, you're going to be more worried about my character as your son's trainer, instructor, or coach? Is he married? Is he a man of God? Like, I don't want my kid around something if he's not these things, if he doesn't check off these boxes. We're just talking about being a baseball coach to young youth athletes, right? Like, but these are the things that parents literally talk about. And I know that because I've been that
Oh,
parent.
he's not married. Oh, he's this or he brought that girl. He's with, yeah, I can see that
Also, this
gossip.
odd that kind of massages into, okay, that's my personal life and this is my professional life. Like, I really never try to commingle the two. People want them to be commingled, right? And being brought in. And that's just the messy side of being humans, right? Like, I think that that shit sucks. But
Mhm.
none of my boys, like, my partners that you all know, I don't think we've ever just sat there and was like, oh, we need to be married by 35. Like, we never had a date. Like, we've always just wanted companionship in the right way. And I think it's because we've all had very similar upbringings in the household. And some didn't, some did. Um, like for me, it's like I had two sets of parents to really look at, like, and say, okay, this is what I want or I don't want. But when you're put in that situation, like I've been, right? It's like, uh, kind of I was really making a stability financial decision. And that's where I don't like the part of marriage is it is a
Yeah,
business decision.
right. And I mean, if we're speaking spiritually, biblically, since we're both from the foundation of Christianity, um, I mean, there is a blueprint, of course, if you want to be married, it's, man and woman, whatever, but it's not necessary to be married. Like
It
Paul
isn't.
even Paul even wait real quick. Paul even says to, if you can't control yourself, if you don't have self-control, then you should be married so that you can have sex and be, a covenant under God and all that. But it also states that, being married will take you away from worshiping God if that partner isn't equally yoked with you. So I don't know where people got it misconstrued, but it's not really a misconstrued. It's like if you want to be married, you should do it because you want to live that life. But like I said, what I was trying to say, I guess, is more of a social construct than a spiritual necessity.
It is, but
Unless you can't control yourself. Like it's okay to be single. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
Is
I get
like
what you're saying.
like
Totally.
it's okay to be single.
And I think that you hit the nail on the head. It's two equal yoked parts that have to be together on all of the tangible shit. Our spirituality is at the top. Like, if we're not coveting and praising God, then we don't have anything. Like, I
Yeah,
can't be with you if you don't understand my relationship, not necessarily my personal relationship with God, but just my relationship with my Christianity faith and the things that
right.
I believe in. Like, if those don't go hand in hand, we don't go hand in hand.
Because I feel like there's power. There's that scripture when two or more come together, there's power. And that's not just talking about marriage. That's just when people come together and pray together. So I just think it would be powerful if a marriage did or two people came together and prayed together like that. I just really do feel like the Lord would bless that abundantly.
For sure.
um and as a single person, the Lord will bless you as well. But I do think it is a societal standard to be married.
It is. It's a social
Right.
status thing. I've continuously said that. Like, we are operating off of a social caste system that I feel like the goalposts every single time keep getting moved, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
like I have to have a woman. I'm not a bad looking dude, so it's like I have to have a female that looks a specific way, and she has to talk a specific way. She has to have a specific job, career, or if she doesn't, she stay at home. That kind of thing. I think that there's a lot of those social constructs that you're talking about, and whereas, you know, kudos to those who have found their partner. Like, I want to say that first and foremost too is,
But
kudos to people that have. It's hard. It's really
yeah,
hard
it's terribly difficult.
because
And
what happens is that it usually is something small that breaks the big. Does that make sense?
Hmm. It's
Usually
just the little things.
that messes up the big. And us as humans, because of our ego and the way we're operating a lot in this life time right now, with the stressors of everything, right? Everything is a stressor right now. And if I can't find peace at the house, then what the fuck are we doing? You know,
Right.
you have to
Yeah,
be
that's where I'm at.
my person. Like, and if you can't be my person, if you're always nitpicking about every little fucking thing, like
Right.
I can't, I don't have time in my day for that. I don't have time in my life for that. It's not me being a dick to you. It's not me being an ass or leading you on. It's just like, look, like, and that's more
There's more to life. Yeah.
I'm coming from in the earlier stages is like, if I just lay this shit out, you have to fucking decide. It's your decision now. I'm giving you all this information and intel about who the hell I am as a
Yeah.
person, individual. You can take these as red flags, you can take them as green flags, white flags, whatever. When you want to wave the white flag, wave it. Don't keep perpetuating us longer and deeper down this rabbit hole that we're never going to get out of. And that's what I see. That's what I've lived is instead of hitting the hard and handling the hard, it keeps getting pushed back and keeps getting pushed back. And
Yeah,
then,
that's never gonna work.
well, then you have this malcontent about the opposite sex. And so, like, it's easy for me to look at a woman and say, oh, she only wants me because I'm a coach. And it's a nice thing to do, or it's the stand up job, right? And I've had those people in my life, and it's like, well, here's my summer schedule. Are you good with this? You know, like, I'm gonna be gone for 6 out of 8 weeks. You know, can you handle me being on the road? Like, can you handle not me being there? You know, and what are you doing when I'm not there? Are you out there sneaking around? Like, I don't want to ever have those
Mhm.
inclinations that if I'm going to be on the good foot, then you're not going to be on the good foot because that's not going to be a cohesive unit. So I think that it's just, it comes down to that big C word, right? Communication, open,
And
honest,
yeah.
transparent communication about what you want or don't want. And I think that
Or the other one, commitment. Like, period. Like, it has to be a commitment.
mhm,
I'm sorry, there's no other way around it. Like, if you're committed, you're gonna do the work. You're gonna do the healing because that's a lot of the stuff that people have to deal with is because they're not healed from a past relationship or a
mhm,
past, you know, a violation.
mhm.
So it's,
There's a lot said with that, right? And I think for someone in your boat, like, what are you tangibly looking for? Like, what are you looking for from a partner?
So what I'm looking for is somebody that is going to contribute to my situation, not take away from it, because I have everything that people, desire or what we're working towards for the American dream. Like, I already have that for myself. Like, I could just, I'm good. Bills are paid. I own a home. I have a luxury car. What are the other? I can go on vacation whenever. I buy whatever I want. So at this point, I need somebody to be in my life that's, that is going to enhance my life. That we could share life together, make me better. Um, we
How
could
do you,
learn from each other.
how do you handle the stigma of being a single black female in her 40s?
And
How
I'm
are
not
you
alone. I'm not alone. There's
not
so
alone?
many.
How are you personally handling? Because there's stigma, and it's a taboo topic, but it is a topic. You know, because we are on two opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to being a single black male, successful and has his shit together, and a single black female who has her shit together, but she's single. And there's this stigma with that. There's this stereotypical
What is
stigma.
the stigma? What do they say?
Well, just you're bitter, right? Bitter, not happy, you know, don't need a man. I mean, I'm just telling
What?
you things from way
No, see that's okay. No, I've heard this. I was just like, what have you heard? But no,
about you
that's
per se, just the overall aspect. Like
right, right, right.
you said, we're on two different sides of the spectrum socially about how things are to be perceived. How I'm perceived is, wow, he's a catch. Like, what the fuck is he doing on the market? Why isn't that same sentiment being said about,
Black women? I don't know. Like that's crazy. That's
or just
wild.
women in general? I don't even want to generalize it in a cultural sense either. Just I'm a 43-year-old male who's not married and has a a business and is successful. Both kids are in going to be college educated. Like that just those three things right there are easily conversation starters, and they're easily equitable, like I mean super equitable, I should say, tangible pieces that a woman would want from a man. Like, oh shit, he got his shit together, he's a good dad too, like hell yeah, marks off the first two or
Right.
first three.
I mean, I think that's a better question for you to answer. Like why people wouldn't want a woman like me. Because
I
I
think
don't know. I don't know.
I think a lot of men in a lot of ways sometimes are scared of not being the dominant force in the relationship.
But
And
women, no, but see, that's crazy because Black women, we don't want to be, um, we're not dominant. Like, we want to live the soft life. We want to be chill and do all that. But I have found in my situation that there's a lot of men that don't lead. Like, it's hard to find men that will lead and make decisions and choices for your life. Like,
well, there's
that's
a lot
just what I,
of boys out there. There's a lot of fuck shit out there, period. Right? Like, and the reason why I ask you that is because, it's not saying that that's who you are. And I know you know that. But what
yeah.
I'm saying is there is this stigma about it. And so, like, what have you found to be maybe your reprieve or how you felt about what
I
you've
guess
experienced?
I've just accepted it maybe at this point because I'm what, 40? I'll be 44 this year. I mean, I've kind of come to terms that I may have to live the rest of my life by myself. And I'm kind of okay with that because I have my epi- other passions, like there's a lot of things that keep me busy, like my music, production work, this podcast, my family, just my nieces, nephews, games, all that. Like there's things that I keep myself busy with in a relationship isn't what's the word I'm looking for? Isn't a requirement anymore, I guess.
I think that's dope because, in a sense, you're not pigeonholing yourself trying to obtain something that you don't necessarily need. Like, if it happens,
Mm.
it happens. If it doesn't,
It's
then
like you want it, you would love, like I would love, like to. I go on trips by myself. I've been on cruises, Caribbean cruises by myself, but
I mean, if I'm off, I'll join. Okay, I'll help
it's
you.
lit. Like
I'll be
it's
the
fun.
wingman. I got you.
And even not even just with, like relationship wise. Like at this point, if I go on a trip, I rather go by myself just because I know what I like, I know what I want. I know what works for me. Like even just traveling with friends, like people are on different pages and some people just don't know how to travel.
Mhm.
So I find that it is better in some cases to go by myself. But I would love, but like I was saying, at this point, I would love to be able to go with somebody I'm interested in and exploring the world together. I would, but it's not here, and I'm not gonna just settle. And it's like not even settling, it's just wanting basic love, basic commitment, basic time and effort. Like it's really not requiring that much. But I do know there are women who are hypergamous or whatever who are just looking for a man for their money, you know? Like there are those women out here who are like that, but I'm not like that. I'm
Do you
definitely
think
different.
that more women are? Let me ask you this: do you think women are more apt to fuck with a dude because he's a good dude, or fuck with a dude because of his tangibleness and the things that he has?
It depends on the woman. It just depends on the woman. I can't even tell you because like it's such a like whole culture that's accepted. They're used to have that saying, oh, you can't make a hoe a housewife, but a lot of these guys are making hoes housewives. So it's like they want that.
Fuck, that is. This generation's so different.
It is like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I
It's
don't
so
know.
different. I don't even know. I can't. Fuck.
And real quick, one thing as a woman, it's hard to meet people at my age because I mean, your environment where you go is the type of person that will be there. But I don't drink like that. I don't really, so I don't go to club. I don't enjoy going to clubs and bars or anything like that. So there's really nowhere to go to meet people. And then when you go on trips, there's just a bunch of other women there. It's not a lot of men. Like men, we seriously, me and my cousins, we have conversations like, where are the men at? Like, you guys don't travel? You guys don't like to go places? But so we figured maybe like a sports bar.
And that's funny because you just gave all my single friends some insight. So my player partners that are
Go on
single,
trips.
you need to go on trips and travel, get on these cruise ships, go to Tulum, go to Cancun.
Absolutely. Please put out the word because we are so bored. Not bored, but it's like,
But let me ask you this, because this is the other thing. I've traveled the world and been very blessed to be able to go to trips and go to venues, go to different countries, different cities, and be a part of different things. I've always found it on my single trips that I went to. Let's just say we're going to Puerto Rico. I've always found it kind of awkward to initiate conversation in the bar. Um, One, because you don't know if that person's on a honeymoon or engaged or whatever it may be, you know. So sometimes you feel like, yeah, you're on these trips, you're down for whatever, or just to meet whoever, and you don't get it, or you might see that person and you have a conversation, then you know, are you more apt to being yourself like you are at home with that person, or are you going to be vacation Stacy, if that makes sense?
right.
Okay.
I mean, at the age that I am now, I'm not gonna be different because I'm not gonna just because like when you're
I've
younger,
experienced the vacation Alec and vacation whoever I met out, you know what I mean? And that's always been funny because it's like you hear those crazy rom-com kind of stories, you know, that they found each other on a cruise, or you know, they were in Vegas and then all of a sudden they're married 3 days later, and it's
right?
lasted forever. I mean, you've heard these types of stories, but like I've always been interested to find out, like from a perspective of where you're at, like you have all these freedoms, and I know for my own self, like if I was not in a position to meet or match who you were, um, me personally, just right now in my own skin, like I wouldn't put you into my life. Like I wouldn't, for you know, seek you out because I would never want to drag you down. Like if I wasn't financially
Sucks.
stable, I wasn't the person that you're claiming that you need to have, and I'm saying claiming in a loose term. I don't want to overclaim something I'm not, because then, you know, obviously the truth will always come to light,
Yeah,
right?
you
So
can't measure up. Yeah.
yeah, and so like I think that that ends up happening, and then that's where a lot of dudes end up, including myself, have ended up with self-sabotaging relationships because they don't feel equal to their counterpart, right? And they don't feel like they can measure up to their counterpart, and it takes a level of selflessness to understand, like, hey, she may be here and it's great that she's here and I'm her biggest supporter, but you have to handle your own self just as much as you have to handle the relationship. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that work.
Yeah, you have to be an individual before you get into a relationship. What is it? One and one makes a whole, a half and a half. I don't know. Anyways, but like I was like, never mind, don't go there. But if you have to be a whole person when you get into a relationship, you know, you can't be half a person. You can't kind of know who you are. You have to know who you are as an individual, and then you bring your individuality to the collectiveness or the union, and then it should grow. Like you guys, it'll just grow. Like I just know that it
So what
would.
is, let me ask you this to end this, okay? What does your happily ever after manifesting wise look like to you?
Like relationship wise or just life.
Relationship, homie.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, well, I just know the Lord is on his way, so I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about any of this.
Mhm.
He'll be here before nah, I don't know.
You're
Uh
nuts.
But relationship wise, I don't know. I'm not looking. I'm just out here hanging out
But you're
until some,
thriving though. See,
huh?
how I said you're thriving. I mean, I think that's gonna be my new mission.
What?
Personal. I'm gonna get you back on that horse, girl. Like we gotta go. And when
I,
like, I don't want you to think like I'm just gonna hook you with some fuck boy and it's gonna be some stupid shit. I'm more looking and interested in you as my friend, right? Like I want you to be tangibly happy. I want you to be very happy with,
but I
and
am happy. And that's the thing. A relationship doesn't
there's
necessarily
a
make you
different level of
happy.
happiness. There's a different level of happiness when you're happy with a partner.
No, that's true. No, you're right about that.
Shine
Like,
different when you have that person.
right. And that's why, and we didn't even really talk about what we wanted to talk about today because of all of this. But I was going to mention that that's why there's a lot of agencies. Like, I feel like I am not doing enough based on what I found. Like, with these, there's agencies that are matching people to be married. There are, there's all the dating sites or whatever, but dating is to just hook up.
See, I don't watch any of that shit. 90 Day Fiance and Love at First Sight or Blind Love or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah,
Like
but
I just always feel like they're on these shows for the status part for themselves.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But I mean, outside of that, like that video that I sent you, the company, the
Yeah.
agency in Japan who is matching people or friends, because it was slightly different than an arranged marriage. Basically, these friends who are like, hey, let's talk about our living arrangements and let's get married for the tax purposes. Let's get married for just the benefits of marriage, companionship, long-lasting companionship. But the whole time I was watching it, I was like, well, isn't that why people get married? Or people who are friends should be the ones getting married? Like, shouldn't that be the basis of a strong marriage? Is friendship? So they're calling these things friendship marriages. And and even they were like open relationships though.
Mhm. That was the other thing I was going to bring up. Polygamy and being open relationships is on the rise. And my favorite show ever on HBO outside of Entourage had that in Insecure with Dro and Molly having an open relationship. I think that whole season brought a whole new light to, I don't want to say just black culture, just more hip hop kind of culture and an
Mhm.
understanding of what does this really mean. Because it was the first time I had really ever dived into it or saw
Polygamy.
it on the big screen. Just being in an open marriage or open relationship, and how does that?
For me personally, I feel like that is a lack of self-control or people who are kind of greedy and want everything. And
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with people who want to live that lifestyle. I'm just not a person who's driven by my pleasures or sexual desires. Like I find it more interesting and lasting to find one person and thriving with them for my whole entire life, just because those were the examples I've seen in my life.
8 to 12 years ago, I wouldn't even say 10. I'll just give it a timeline of 8 to 12. If that shit would have been on the table, I would have probably took it. Even with my
Polygamy.
spirituality and the people in how much of a believer I am, like I would have been fine with that. But
What,
I
polygamy?
not polygamy in its
Oh,
own, like being in an open relationship,
oh, an
like
open relationship.
having that option without it turning into the ladder of infidelity, of being secretive, of being, with someone when you're not supposed to be with someone, whether it's emotionally, whether it's physically, any of that stuff. I mean, I think there's a lot of fine lines that people don't construct or realize of what it takes to be in a strong marriage or what it takes to be in a strong committed relationship. Um, I think that's where counseling has to come in, which I didn't do. We didn't do as a couple at the time, which we should have done. And those are a part of skipping those steps into finding out, is this person really who I should be with? Are we really truly compatible in a sense of, can she handle me? My ex-wife was very submissive, and that's not good for me. And it takes a strong individual to realize that's not. who I need in my life, whether
Mm.
I want to really cop to that or not. Like I have to cop to it because I can't have a submissive woman who won't put her foot down, won't be tangible in her arguments and in the debates that we will have about our relationship. Um, but I also can't deal with insecurities and I can't deal with lack of trust. And if there is lack of trust and insecurities, okay, what led this to this route anyway? Was it your previous? Was it something I did? Like if I'm the infractor or somebody else was the infractor, like I can't take on the brunt of somebody else's fucking bullshit that they did to
And
you.
they may not even know why they have those type of trust issues,
Hmm.
and they
And
have to get down to the root of it.
that shit sucks. So there's a lot to this
Yeah,
subject.
no, there's so much. But one thing that now that I thought of it, I recently did start saying that I wouldn't mind being in a I don't know what you would call it. It wouldn't be a marriage, but where just the way inflation is going, the economy is going, I would not mind having like a compound and living with people with similar like-minded people who contribute to the household. We have a fund or whatever, so it's not necessarily a marriage and it's not necessarily sexual at all, but just people who are like-minded that live collectively together. And
So
I found,
it's like a very disciplined real world, right?
yeah,
And I
yeah,
don't
like,
like it either. I mean, again, like I can look at my situation just right now. Like I don't want to be a homeowner. I mean, as much as I've been one, I've done all that. I've had the condos, I've had the house, and I'm really happy with what I have right now, and it suits who I am and what I am. But like, if I was to be in a situation where it's like I probably don't want to be married, or like if I was in that thought process, not that's not saying I don't want to be. I just would. I personally would want to be with other like-minded individuals for one common good. Like if we
yeah,
all lived in one house and we were respectful of each other's space, time, and those types of things, and just understanding like we have the same tangible goals, to kind of
yeah,
give us more.
live and thrive. Oh,
Yeah.
like, think about it. Like, if you had other people around, like I said, that were like-minded friends, like you would never be bored. But the bigger thing is like in Asian culture, I can't remember what the term is called, but it was a blue zone area in Asia or Japan where people lived longest because they had people around, they had companionship. So for me, life as I get older and to have longer life, I mean, yeah, I could get a dog, but I mean, you could get companionship is important in life. That's all I'm saying. Whether it's in marriage or commitment or whatever, open relate, whatever, like people need human interaction to be healthy.
All
So,
day. I agree with you 100%. But
you
I
know,
I, I do have a tangible, a really goal for my homie Stace. We'll talk offline.
yeah,
I
we'll
really
see.
do. I think that this is helpful for. I hope this was helpful for others because I think that there's so many different nuances to the market right now, and all the markets are inflated and they're kind of depleted, and it's like you're not getting an accurate return on investment with a lot of things in today's world and society, and it sucks because like I know what I'm good at and I know what I can try to be good at, but I also know what I suck at. But I know I also communicate what I suck at and what I'm good at. And I think that sometimes that in today's world, that's sometimes off putting. It's like, well, I'd rather you know up front, like, fuck, I don't like wasting time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just got to find the person that complements all the things that you put out there, who's, like you said earlier, who's going to tolerate or who's going to overlook the little things for the bigger goal.
Mhm.
But I also do suggest that if people are thinking about marriage, marry for anything other than just love and sex. Like that's going to have you ended up possibly single again or in divorce. if that's what, because it's not a lasting thing. I know a lot of relationships do thrive and last from having physical, attraction or whatever to each other. And that sometimes is like the last thing that keeps the relationship together. But if your person doesn't know how to like critically think or help you solve a problem or speak to, anything that is an issue that comes up in everyday life, then what's the point? Like sex isn't gonna make that better. And I don't think that should be something that a marriage is based off of. I think marriage, people honestly, at this age, they should look at who's going to be there for you when you can't wipe your ass.
I've been saying that shit for the last.
That's loyalty, that's respect, that's like, that's real talk because as life goes on, I mean, people's appearance changes. Men and women don't have the same sexual drive. Men can't even get erect in some situations. Women don't even get wet. Like, I mean, there's different things that happen, but sex should not be the basis of
Ever.
marriage.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Thank
anyways,
you. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you
I
too.
learned you today. I love it. I love it.
You
We've
said
known
what? It
I said
dropped
a
out.
lot about you today. I've known you for almost 20 years, but I got to get deep with you, and I appreciate that. It's an
Yeah.
honor.
I'm speechless again.
Well, you're a dope ass female, man. I love it. Okay,
Oh, I appreciate it.
I do
Thanks
hope
for,
that you're able to find what it is that you do deserve, and don't settle for less. That's my
yeah,
advice, homie.
yeah, because I'm good
You
by
are good.
myself.
She's like, mm. I was like,
Yeah,
all right. I was like, I
but
appreciate.
no, don't get me wrong. Like I would definitely deal with somebody. I would like it. I'd be open to it, I think.
You think I love it. Well, you guys have a great day, and I love you, Stace.
All right, love you too.
All right.